I always prided myself on being a confident man. In my career, in my hobbies, and most importantly, in my marriage. Sarah and I had built what many would call the perfect life. A beautiful home, a loving daughter, and a sense of mutual respect. But beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form. Cracks I was too blind, or perhaps too stubborn to notice. It was a chilly autumn evening when everything started to unravel. I had just returned from a business trip, feeling accomplished after closing a significant deal. Walking through the front door, I was greeted by the scent of dinner wafting through the house. Sarah was in the kitchen, laughing with our daughter, Emily. They looked so happy together, the way they always did, but there was an undercurrent I couldn't quite place. As I settled into the living room, Sarah handed me a glass of wine. "To your success," she toasted with a warm smile. I took a sip, feeling the stress of the past weeks begin to melt away. Emily was playing nearby, her laughter filling the space with life. Everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. Later that night, after putting Emily to bed, Sarah and I sat down to talk. She seemed distant, her usual vivacity replaced by a cold detachment. "We need to talk," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. My heart sank. This was not the conversation I expected. She confessed to having rekindled a relationship with her ex-husband, Mark. Shockwaves hit me. Mark, the man she had left years ago, citing irreconcilable differences. I had never imagined Sarah would return to him, especially not now. The betrayal stung, but I tried to remain composed. "Why, Sarah? After everything we've been through?" Her response was dismissive. "You never understood me, never gave me what I needed. Mark does." The words were like daggers, each one piercing deeper than the last. I felt a surge of anger mixed with disbelief. How could she so casually dismiss our life together? As days turned into weeks, the tension at home grew unbearable. Sarah became more hostile, more abrasive. She would lie about trivial matters, her demeanor growing increasingly boorish. Emily seemed to side with her mother, supporting her in ways that left me feeling isolated and betrayed. Despite the turmoil, I maintained my confidence outwardly. At work, I continued to excel, using my professional success as a shield against the chaos at home. But inside, I was a storm of emotions, anger, sadness, and a burning desire for answers. I couldn't let Sarah and Emily tear apart the life I had worked so hard to build. The days following Sarah's confession were a whirlwind of emotions. Every interaction felt like navigating a minefield, each word and gesture laden with unspoken tension. I tried to keep my composure, maintaining the confident facade I had always prided myself on, but inside, I was unraveling. Sarah's transformation was stark. The vibrant, loving wife I once knew had been replaced by someone unrecognizable. She was curt, dismissive, and her lies seemed to multiply daily. Simple things became battlegrounds: where she went, who she was with, and what she was doing. Trust, once the foundation of our marriage, was now a fragile glass waiting to shatter. Emily, our daughter, seemed to grow closer to Sarah with each passing day. I couldn't help but feel like an outsider in my own home. Conversations that used to be filled with laughter and shared stories were now strained and superficial. It was clear that Emily was siding with her mother, supporting her in ways that left me feeling isolated and deeply betrayed. One evening, after a particularly tense dinner where Sarah had lied about working late, I decided to confront her. I found her in the study, pretending to focus on some paperwork. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She looked up, her eyes cold and indifferent. "What is there to talk about? I'm not doing anything wrong." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Don't lie to me. I know you're seeing Mark." "Why? After everything we've been through?" Her facade crumbled for a moment, revealing a flicker of vulnerability before she masked it with contempt. "Maybe I didn't get what I needed from you. Mark does." The conversation ended in a stalemate, with Sarah retreating into herself, leaving me with more questions than answers. As the nights grew longer and the days more strained, I found solace in my work, using my professional achievements as a shield against the growing chaos at home. But no matter how successful I became, the emptiness inside only deepened. One afternoon, while going through some old files at home, I stumbled upon a series of emails between Sarah and Mark. They were filled with intimate confessions, plans to meet, and discussions about Emily. My heart raced as I read through them, the evidence of their betrayal laid bare before me. Determined to get to the bottom of this, I decided to confront Mark directly. It was risky, but I needed answers. The meeting was arranged in a neutral location, a secluded cafe where we wouldn't be easily interrupted. As I sat across from Mark, the tension was palpable. "Why, Mark? Why are you doing this to me?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice calm. Mark smirked, his confidence unwavering. "You always thought you had it all figured out, didn't you? Maybe it's time someone reminded you that life isn't as perfect as you believe." His words hit hard, but I refused to show weakness. "This isn't over, Mark. I'll make sure you regret this." As I left the cafe, a sense of foreboding settled over me. I realized that this was just the beginning. The web of deceit was far more intricate than I had imagined, and untangling it would require more than just confronting Sarah and Mark. There were deeper secrets, hidden motives, and alliances I hadn't anticipated. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The confidence I once had was wavering, replaced by a steely resolve. If Sarah and Mark thought they could destroy my life, they were in for a harsh awakening. Revenge wasn't just an option anymore, it was inevitable. The meeting with Mark left a bitter taste in my mouth. His smug demeanor and cutting remarks only fueled the fire of betrayal burning within me. As I walked away from the secluded cafe, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the tip of the iceberg. Sarah and Mark were orchestrating something far more intricate than a simple affair. They were dismantling our lives piece by piece. Back home, the atmosphere was tense. Sarah's hostility had escalated to outright hostility. Every interaction was laced with sarcasm and thinly veiled contempt. She reveled in her newfound power, twisting every situation to her advantage. Emily, our daughter, seemed to be in on it too, siding with her mother at every turn. The innocence of our family had been stripped away, leaving behind a shell of deceit and manipulation. One evening, I decided to confront the situation head-on. I planned to address the mounting lies and the shifting loyalties within our household. As I sat down for dinner, I could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. Sarah greeted me with a forced smile, while Emily kept her gaze fixed on her plate, avoiding any direct eye contact. "I've had enough of the lies, Sarah," I began, my voice steady but firm. "It's time we lay everything out on the table." Her eyes flashed with irritation. "Oh, here we go again. What is it this time?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "I know about you and Mark. I know about the emails, the secret meetings, and I know Emily is supporting you." Sarah's facade cracked for a split second, revealing a glimpse of the manipulative woman beneath. "You have no idea what you're talking about," she snapped. "Emily and I have a close bond because you're too distant, too absorbed in your work to care." Her attempt to shift the blame only confirmed my suspicions. This wasn't just about an affair. It was about control, about tearing our family apart for reasons I couldn't yet comprehend. Determined to regain control, I decided to dig deeper. Late into the night, I combed through our financial records, looking for any discrepancies or hidden transactions. That's when I found it, a series of large, unexplained withdrawals from our joint account, all traced back to a shell company I had never heard of. My mind raced as I connected the dots. Sarah and Mark weren't just having an affair, they were plotting something much more sinister. The revelation hit me hard. This was no longer a personal betrayal, it was a calculated move to ruin me. The confidence I had always exuded began to waver, replaced by a steely resolve. I couldn't let them get away with this. Revenge wasn't just an option anymore, it was imperative. The next day, I began laying the groundwork for my plan. I meticulously gathered evidence, documenting every lie, every deceitful act. Sarah's public persona as the perfect wife and mother was a mask, one that I was determined to shatter. I reached out to her friends, exposing her true colors one by one, watching as her carefully constructed image began to crumble. Meanwhile, Emily's support for her mother only deepened the rift between us. Her once bright demeanor had dulled, replaced by a cold detachment that mirrored Sarah's. It pained me to see my daughter turn against me, but I knew I had to stay focused. This wasn't just about anger, it was about reclaiming my life and restoring the integrity of our family. As weeks turned into months, the battle intensified. Sarah retaliated by spreading rumors about my professional conduct, threatening to tarnish my reputation. But I was prepared. With each twist and turn, I adapted, leveraging my resources and influence to counter her every move. The tables had turned, and I was no longer the victim, I was the one in control. Yet, beneath the surface of this calculated vendetta, a storm of emotions raged within me. Anger, pain, and a lingering sense of betrayal gnawed at my core. But my confidence remained unshaken, a facade that masked the turmoil beneath. I was determined to see this through to the end, no matter the cost. The weeks that followed my discovery of Sarah and Mark's deceit were a relentless cascade of strategic moves and countermoves. Every day felt like a chess game, each decision calculated to expose their true colors and reclaim what was rightfully mine. My confidence, once a steadfast pillar, now served as both my armor and my weapon in this intricate battle. One morning, as the sun cast its golden hue across our meticulously maintained garden, I received an unexpected call. It was from Laura, one of Sarah's closest friends. Her voice trembled with fear as she confessed that Sarah had been manipulating her, spreading false rumors about her personal life to isolate her from mutual friends. This revelation was a goldmine, a piece of evidence that could dismantle Sarah's carefully constructed facade even further. I arranged a meeting with Laura, ensuring it was in a neutral, public place to maintain discretion. Over coffee, Laura detailed the extent of Sarah's manipulation. She had not only targeted Laura, but several other friends, sowing seeds of doubt and discord. This pattern of behavior was exactly what I needed to demonstrate the toxic influence Sarah had become. Armed with this new information, I began compiling a comprehensive dossier. It wasn't enough to expose the affair. I needed to reveal the extent of Sarah's deceit and manipulation. I reached out to other friends, colleagues, and even acquaintances who had fallen victim to Sarah's lies. Each testimony added another layer to the narrative I was crafting, a narrative that painted Sarah not just as an unfaithful wife, but as a master manipulator intent on destroying everything and everyone around her. Meanwhile, Emily's support for her mother continued to deepen the chasm between us. Her once bright and inquisitive nature had become sullen and withdrawn, mirroring Sarah's newfound coldness. I attempted to reach out, to bridge the growing gap, but Emily remained distant, her loyalty unwavering. It was a painful reminder that my own flesh and blood had turned against me, aligning with a woman who had chosen deceit over honesty. Determined not to let Emily slip away, I decided to approach her indirectly. I started attending the same extracurricular activities she was involved in, hoping to reconnect and understand the depth of her allegiance to Sarah. It was during one of these sessions that I noticed subtle signs of manipulation. Emily's opinions were being shaped, her sense of self eroded by the constant reinforcement of Sarah's narrative. It became clear that Sarah was not only cheating on me, but also orchestrating a psychological campaign to turn Emily against me. The realization was infuriating, yet it fueled my resolve. I couldn't let Sarah and Emily tear apart what little was left of our family. Revenge had to be precise, calculated, and devoid of emotional attachment. I began devising a plan that would dismantle their alliance and expose the full extent of their betrayal. Late one night, I found myself poring over our family's financial records once again. The shell company I had discovered earlier was just the beginning. Hidden within the intricate web of transactions were funds being funneled into offshore accounts, money laundering operations masked under legitimate business ventures. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. It was about criminal activity, and I had the evidence to prove it. With a newfound sense of purpose, I contacted a trusted attorney, presenting the evidence I had gathered. Together, we outlined a legal strategy to not only expose Sarah and Mark's personal betrayal, but also their financial crimes. The stakes were higher now, the game more dangerous, but my confidence was unshaken. I had transformed from a wronged husband into a man on a mission to reclaim his life and ensure that those who had betrayed him faced the consequences of their actions. As the legal proceedings began, the truth started to surface. The media caught wind of the scandal, amplifying the damage to Sarah's reputation. Friends and acquaintances turned their backs on her, unable to reconcile the image of the perfect wife and mother with the reality of her deceit and manipulation. Mark, too, found himself ensnared in the fallout, his own reputation tarnished by their joint transgressions. Yet, amidst the victories, a lingering emptiness gnawed at me. The victory felt hollow without Emily by my side. I knew that reclaiming her allegiance required more than just legal triumphs. It required healing the fractured bond between us. But how could I mend what had been so thoroughly broken? In the depths of my contemplation, an unexpected twist emerged. During a routine investigation into Sarah's financial dealings, I stumbled upon evidence that suggested her motives were not solely driven by personal dissatisfaction. There were whispers of a deeper conspiracy, hints of blackmail, and hidden alliances that neither I nor Mark had anticipated. This revelation hinted at a larger, more sinister plot, one that threatened to engulf not just our family, but potentially others connected to us. The discovery sent a chill down my spine. It was clear that Sarah was entangled in something far more dangerous than a mere affair or financial deceit. As I delved deeper, piecing together fragments of information, I realized that this was a turning point, a moment that would define not just my revenge, but the future of everyone involved. With each revelation, my resolve hardened. I had to navigate this labyrinth of secrets and lies with caution, ensuring that my pursuit of justice didn't become a descent into darkness. The confidence I had maintained was now complemented by a strategic mindset, ready to face whatever twists and turns lay ahead. The revelation of Sarah and Mark's deeper entanglements shook the very foundation of what I thought I knew about our lives. The discovery of their involvement in financial crimes and potential conspiracies elevated this betrayal from personal to perilous. My confidence, already a steadfast companion, now burned with a sharper intensity. This was no longer just about reclaiming my life. It was about unearthing the truth and ensuring that justice prevailed. With the legal strategy in motion, I felt a sense of purpose that had been missing for months. The attorney I worked with, Rebecca, was not only skilled but also shared my determination to see this through. Together, we meticulously prepared our case, gathering every piece of evidence that could dismantle Sarah and Mark's operations. The media frenzy surrounding the scandal provided ample public scrutiny, but I knew that the real battle was still ahead. As the legal proceedings advanced, the true extent of Sarah's manipulation began to surface. Friends who once admired her began to distance themselves, unable to reconcile the image of the devoted wife and mother with the reality of her deceit. Mark, too, found himself ensnared in the fallout, his own reputation tarnished by their joint actions. It was a satisfying unraveling, but the satisfaction was tempered by the lingering pain of betrayal. Amidst the chaos, Emily's estrangement weighed heavily on me. Her unwavering support for Sarah was both baffling and heartbreaking. Determined to bridge the widening gap, I sought opportunities to connect with her outside the tense confines of our home. I attended her school events, volunteered for her extracurricular activities, and made a conscious effort to be present in her life. Slowly, moments of normalcy began to reemerge, though the shadow of her mother's influence still loomed large. One evening, after a particularly grueling day in court, I found Emily sitting alone in her room, her eyes distant. Sensing an opportunity, I approached her gently. "Emily, can we talk?" I asked, my voice soft yet earnest. She looked up, her expression guarded. "What is there to talk about, Dad?" Taking a deep breath, I decided to be transparent. "I know things have been hard between us. I want you to understand that I'm here for you, no matter what." Her eyes welled with unshed tears. "It's not your fault, Dad. It's Mom and Mark. They've made everything so confusing." I reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I wish things were different. I want to help you navigate through this." For a moment, she seemed to waver, the wall she'd built around herself showing cracks. But before she could respond, the door swung open, and Sarah stepped in, her presence commanding and unyielding. "What's going on here?" she demanded, her tone sharp. Caught off guard, I quickly stepped back. Nothing, Sarah. Just having a talk. She glared at us both, her eyes flickering with a mix of anger and suspicion. Make sure that it's nothing that could harm our family's reputation. As she left, the tension in the room thickened. Emily turned away, her silence speaking volumes. It was clear that Sarah was determined to maintain her control, using Emily as both shield and weapon against me. Undeterred, I knew that patience and persistence were key. The legal battles would continue to chip away at their defenses, and I was prepared to endure whatever was necessary to expose the truth. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities to strengthen my case and rebuild the trust that had been shattered. Late one night, as I reviewed the latest court documents, Rebecca approached me with a grave expression. We've just received a subpoena for additional financial records. It looks like they're trying to dig up more dirt to undermine our case. I nodded, feeling the familiar surge of determination. Let them try. The more they hide, the easier it will be to bring everything to light. Rebecca placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We're making progress. Keep your head up. Her words were a balm to my frayed nerves. I took a moment to reflect on the journey so far, from the facade of a perfect marriage to the depths of betrayal and the ongoing fight for justice. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but my resolve remained unbroken. As dawn broke the next day, I stood by the window, watching the first light of morning chase away the shadows of the night. The storm was gathering, both outside and within the walls of our home. But I was ready. With each passing day, I edged closer to the truth, armed with evidence, support, and an unyielding spirit. The legal battles were intensifying, each court session peeling back another layer of Sarah and Mark's meticulously constructed deceit. Rebecca and I worked tirelessly, our partnership a formidable force against the mounting evidence of their transgressions. The media spotlight shone brightly on our case, turning our once private turmoil into a public spectacle. Yet, amidst the chaos, my focus remained unwavering. Justice had to prevail. One afternoon, as I reviewed the latest testimonies, a call from Rebecca interrupted my concentration. We've got something, she said, her voice tinged with excitement and urgency. A new witness has come forward. Someone close to Sarah who's willing to testify about her manipulative tactics. Intrigued, I arranged a meeting with Rebecca immediately. The witness, a former colleague named Jessica, had been under Sarah's influence for years. She detailed how Sarah had orchestrated professional setbacks for those who opposed her, using a combination of charm and coercion to bend others to her will. Her testimony was a game-changer, providing concrete evidence of Sarah's manipulative nature beyond our personal grievances. Armed with Jessica's statement, our case gained significant momentum. The courtroom sessions became more aggressive, with each side digging deeper to unearth weaknesses in the other's arguments. Sarah's demeanor in court was a stark contrast to the cooperative wife I once knew. She was defensive, aggressive, and unrelenting, traits that only solidified my resolve to see this through. Meanwhile, Emily's estrangement continued to gnaw at me. Her unwavering support for Sarah was a constant reminder of the chasm that had formed between us. Determined to bridge the gap, I decided to take a different approach. Instead of confronting her directly, I began leaving little notes around the house, messages of love, encouragement, and subtle reassurances that I was still there for her. It was a small gesture, but it was a start. One evening, after a particularly grueling day in court, I returned home to find Emily sitting alone in the living room, her eyes red from crying. She looked up as I entered, a mixture of anger and sadness etched across her face. "Why are you doing this, Dad?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why are you tearing our family apart?" Her words pierced through me, cutting deeper than any accusation Sarah had hurled my way. I knelt beside her, searching her eyes for any sign of the daughter I once knew. "Emily, I'm doing this because I want the truth to come out. I want to protect you and our family from the harm Sarah is causing." She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't understand. Mom always said you never had time for us. Maybe that's why she's leaving you." The pain in her voice was undeniable, and it fueled my determination to salvage what remained of our fractured relationship. I knew that winning the legal battle was only part of the fight. I also needed to heal the emotional wounds that had been inflicted. As the weeks progressed, our case began to draw the attention of higher authorities. Investigations into the shell company and offshore accounts revealed a network of financial crimes that extended far beyond Sarah and Mark. It became evident that they were part of a larger syndicate involved in money laundering and fraudulent activities. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to our already tumultuous situation. One night, while sifting through the latest financial reports, I stumbled upon a document that sent chills down my spine. It was an encrypted file labeled Project Eclipse. My heart raced as I realized its significance. With Rebecca's expertise, we managed to decrypt the file, uncovering a web of illegal operations tied directly to Sarah and Mark. The scope of their involvement was staggering, implicating influential figures and exposing a network that thrived on deception and manipulation. This newfound information was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it provided the definitive evidence needed to bring them down. On the other, it revealed the depth of their corruption, hinting at dangers that I had never anticipated. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. Determined to proceed cautiously, I began to secure the evidence, ensuring that it was safeguarded against any attempts at tampering or destruction. Rebecca advised involving federal authorities, but I was wary of exposing too much too soon. Trust was a scarce commodity in this battle, and I needed to navigate it with precision. As I delved deeper into the labyrinth of deceit, the emotional toll became increasingly apparent. The confidence I had clung to began to waver under the weight of the revelations. Doubts and fears crept in, threatening to undermine the steely resolve that had carried me this far. But I refused to let them win. This was my life, my family, and I was determined to reclaim them, no matter the cost. One late night, as I sat alone in my study, the room illuminated only by the soft glow of my desk lamp, a realization dawned upon me. Revenge was no longer a personal vendetta. It had evolved into a mission to dismantle a criminal network that had infiltrated every aspect of our lives. The lines between right and wrong blurred, as the true extent of Sarah and Mark's manipulation became clear. With this newfound purpose, I began to strategize my next moves. Every decision had to be calculated, every action deliberate. The path to justice was long and perilous, but I was no longer merely reacting, I was taking control. The storm was gathering, and I was ready to face whatever came my way. The deeper I delved into the tangled web of deceit spun by Sarah and Mark, the more I realized the extent of their manipulation. Every revelation brought a new layer of complexity, pushing me further into a realm I had never anticipated. The confidence that had carried me this far was beginning to show signs of strain, but I clung to it fiercely, knowing that wavering now would be disastrous. Rebecca and I worked around the clock, piecing together the fragmented evidence that would ultimately expose Sarah and Mark's criminal activities. Our efforts were not in vain. Each new piece of information fortified our case, building an unassailable argument against them. The media attention was relentless, painting Sarah as a cunning manipulator and Mark as an unscrupulous partner in crime. Their once respected reputations were crumbling under the weight of the truth. Amidst the legal victories, the personal costs became increasingly apparent. Emily's distance grew more pronounced, her interactions with me curt and guarded. I couldn't help but feel responsible for the rift that had formed between us, a casualty of the battle I had chosen to fight. Her unwavering support for Sarah was a constant reminder of the emotional toll this war was taking on our family. One evening, as I reviewed the latest court filings, Rebecca approached me with a grave expression. "We've received a tip," she said, her voice tinged with urgency. "Someone claims to have inside information about Project Eclipse. They say there's more to Sarah and Mark's operations than we realized." My heart raced at the mention of Project Eclipse. This was the encrypted file that had unveiled a network of financial crimes far beyond anything we had initially uncovered. If there was more to it, the implications were staggering. "Arrange a meeting," I instructed. "We need to know everything." The meeting was set for the following night at a nondescript coffee shop on the outskirts of town. As I sat across from the informant, a nervous figure cloaked in shadows, I felt a surge of anticipation mixed with caution. "What do you know about Project Eclipse?" I asked, my voice steady. The informant glanced around nervously before leaning in. "It's not just financial crimes. Sarah and Mark are involved in something much darker, human trafficking. They've been using the shell company as a front to transport and exploit vulnerable individuals. Project Eclipse is their code name for the entire operation." A chill ran down my spine. Human trafficking was a grave and horrifying revelation, one that elevated their crimes from unethical to monstrous. "How can we stop them?" I pressed, my mind racing with the implications. The informant hesitated before speaking. "There's more evidence hidden within their network, but accessing it won't be easy. You'll need to tread carefully. They're dangerous and won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who threatens their operations." As the informant left, a sense of urgency settled over me. This was no longer just a legal battle. It was a fight against a ruthless criminal empire that threatened innocent lives. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was fraught with peril. Determined to act, I shared the information with Rebecca. "We need to bring this to the authorities immediately," I said. "Human trafficking is on a whole different level. We can't let them continue." Rebecca nodded, her expression serious. "I'll make the call. But we need to ensure that we have irrefutable evidence before going public. They won't back down easily." As days turned into sleepless nights, we meticulously gathered the necessary proof to expose Project Eclipse. The process was exhausting, but the gravity of the situation fueled our determination. Every document, every witness statement, was a step closer to dismantling Sarah and Mark's operation. Meanwhile, the tension at home reached a boiling point. Sarah's behavior became increasingly erratic, her lies more brazen. She openly flaunted her relationship with Mark, using Emily as a pawn to further isolate me. The daughter I once knew seemed lost in the maelstrom of their deceit, her loyalty unwavering despite the emotional devastation it caused. One night, as I returned home after a long day of legal strategizing, I found the house in disarray. Papers were strewn across the living room, and the air was thick with the scent of alcohol. Sarah was sprawled on the couch, a half-empty bottle in her hand. Emily sat nearby, her eyes vacant. "What's going on, Sarah?" I demanded, my voice a mix of anger and concern. She looked up, her eyes glassy and unfocused. "Nothing, just relaxing after a long day." I took a step closer, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "Relaxing isn't going to fix what you've done. Both of you," Sarah snapped, pushing herself off the couch. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? Always so confident, so in control. Well, look where that got you, alone, betrayed, and a complete failure as a husband and father." Her words stung, but I remained composed. "This isn't about perfection. It's about honesty and integrity. Something you clearly lack." Emily looked up, her expression conflicted. "Dad, can't you see how much Mom is hurting? She's been through a lot." Her defense of Sarah only deepened the rift between us. "Emily, I understand that you're loyal to your mother, but her actions have hurt our family deeply. We need to find a way to move forward together." Before I could respond, Sarah lashed out. "Move forward? After everything? You're the one who moved forward without considering us." The confrontation escalated, emotions flaring on all sides. In that moment, the fragile threads holding our family together snapped completely. The once harmonious home was now a battleground of accusations and resentment. As I left the house that night, the weight of the situation bore down on me. The confidence I had always relied upon was now a double-edged sword, pushing me to fight against not just betrayal but a deeper, more sinister threat. Revenge had started as a means to reclaim my life, but now it had evolved into a mission to stop a criminal network that endangered countless lives. The revelation of Project Eclipse had transformed my mission from a personal vendetta into a crusade against a formidable criminal network. Every day brought new challenges, each more daunting than the last. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on my shoulders, but my resolve remained unshaken. I knew that exposing Sarah and Mark's operations was imperative, not just for our family, but for countless innocent lives they had endangered. Rebecca and I decided to escalate our efforts by reaching out to federal authorities. With the evidence we had amassed, it was time to involve those who had the resources and jurisdiction to take down such a pervasive organization. The process was painstaking, filled with bureaucratic hurdles and cautious negotiations. Trust was a scarce commodity, and every step forward required meticulous planning. During one of our late-night strategy sessions, Rebecca shared a startling piece of information. "I've been digging into Project Eclipse, and it turns out they're connected to some high-ranking officials. This isn't just a local operation. It's interwoven with powerful people who have resources and influence beyond our imagination." My heart sank at the implications. Taking on such a network meant facing adversaries who wouldn't hesitate to protect their interests by any means necessary. The stakes had escalated beyond anything I had anticipated, but backing down was not an option. "We need to tread carefully," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "If they're connected to influential figures, exposing them could put us both in danger." Rebecca nodded, her expression serious. "I agree. We'll need to secure more concrete evidence and ensure our safety. But we can't let fear stop us from doing what's right." As we continued our investigation, the personal toll became increasingly apparent. Emily's loyalty to Sarah was unwavering, and her behavior at home had grown more distant and resentful. The daughter I once knew seemed lost, caught in the crossfire of our family's unraveling. I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt, wondering if my pursuit of justice was pushing her further away. One evening, as I returned from a particularly exhausting day, I found the house in an unusual state of calm. Sarah was nowhere to be seen, and Emily was sitting quietly in her room, her demeanor somber. I approached her cautiously. "Emily, can we talk?" She looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and frustration. "I don't know if there's anything left to talk about, Dad." Her words cut deep, a stark reminder of the chasm that had formed between us. "I know things are difficult, but I'm trying to fix what's broken. I need your support." She sighed, turning away. "Support? How can I support you when you're tearing our family apart?" The confrontation left me feeling more isolated than ever. Determined not to lose her entirely, I decided to take a different approach. Instead of forcing conversations, I began leaving small gestures of love, notes, her favorite snacks, even occasional gifts that reminded her of happier times. It was a slow process, but I hoped that these acts would bridge the growing gap between us. Meanwhile, our investigation took a dangerous turn. Rebecca uncovered a lead that pointed to a clandestine meeting scheduled to take place within the next week, a pivotal opportunity to gather irrefutable evidence against Sarah and Mark. The risk was immense, but the potential payoff was too significant to ignore. We meticulously planned our approach, ensuring that every precaution was taken. The night of the meeting, tension hung in the air like a thick fog. Disguises, hidden cameras, and encrypted communication channels became our tools of survival. As we navigated the shadows, the gravity of the situation pressed down on me. This was no longer just a fight for our family. It was a battle against a ruthless criminal enterprise. The meeting location was an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, a place that exuded an eerie silence. As we positioned ourselves, hidden from view, the magnitude of what we were about to do weighed heavily on me. This moment could either dismantle Project Eclipse or plunge us deeper into danger. Hours passed in tense anticipation. Finally, the doors creaked open, and Sarah and Mark stepped into the room, flanked by their associates. Conversations about transactions, future plans, and coded language filled the space. Every word was a potential key to unraveling their operations. Rebecca signaled that she was ready, and we began recording the proceedings. The evidence was irrefutable. Discussions of money laundering, plans for expanding their human trafficking network, and even references to bribing officials. It was the breakthrough we had been striving for. As the meeting concluded and they began to leave, a sense of accomplishment washed over me. We had what we needed to bring them down, but the danger was far from over. Safely exiting the warehouse, Rebecca and I knew that our lives had changed irrevocably. The path to justice was clear, but the risks were greater than ever. Back at home, the the tension remained palpable. Sarah's absence that evening was unusual, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Emily remained distant, her silence speaking volumes. The internal battle raged on, balancing the pursuit of justice with the desperate need to salvage our fractured family. One night, as I lay awake contemplating the day's events, a chilling realization settled in. The line between right and wrong was becoming increasingly blurred. My quest for revenge, once a clear-cut mission, was morphing into something darker. The lengths I was willing to go to ensure justice were pushing me closer to the edge, threatening to consume the very essence of who I was. Determined to stay grounded, I reminded myself of the purpose behind my actions. This wasn't just about retribution. It was about protecting others from the horrors that Sarah and Mark had orchestrated. But the emotional toll was undeniable. Each victory in court, each piece of evidence uncovered, came at the cost of my sanity and the relationships I held dear. The evidence against Sarah and Mark was overwhelming. Project Eclipse had not only exposed their criminal activities, but had also revealed the depth of their manipulation and deceit. With each passing day, the weight of our mission bore down on me, but there was no turning back. Rebecca and I had become a formidable team, driven by a shared purpose to dismantle the network they had built. However, the personal cost of this crusade was becoming increasingly apparent. Emily's distance had deepened, her once vibrant spirit now overshadowed by the turmoil at home. Every failed attempt to reach out felt like another blow, a reminder of what I was losing in the fight for justice. The man who had once walked with confidence now found himself teetering on the edge of exhaustion and despair. One chilly evening, as autumn leaves swirled outside my window, Rebecca called with urgent news. "We've secured a warrant for their arrest," she announced, her voice tinged with both relief and determination. "Federal agents will be raiding their properties tomorrow morning." A surge of adrenaline coursed through me. This was the culmination of months of painstaking effort, the moment we had been working towards. Yet, beneath the excitement, a gnawing anxiety took root. What would this mean for our family? How would Emily react when the truth was laid bare? That night, I wrestled with my thoughts, the walls of my study closing in as sleep eluded me. The plan was clear. While the authorities handled the legal fallout, Rebecca and I needed to prepare for the aftermath at home. The storm was approaching, and I had to brace myself for the chaos it would bring. Morning arrived with an eerie calm. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains as the sound of sirens pierced the stillness. Federal agents swarmed our house, executing the warrants with precision. Sarah and Mark were apprehended without resistance, their faces masks of defiance and fear. The media descended swiftly, capturing every moment for public consumption. In the days that followed, the news spread like wildfire. Sarah's public image was shattered, her carefully curated persona exposed for all to see. Mark faced charges that would see him incarcerated for years, if not decades. The courtroom became a battleground where the truth fought to emerge victorious over deceit. Amidst the legal triumph, the personal ramifications were devastating. Sarah's arrogance had finally unraveled, revealing the vulnerable woman beneath the tough exterior. She lashed out, blaming me for the destruction of our family, refusing to acknowledge her role in the chaos. Her bitterness only served to push Emily further away, her daughter's support unwavering despite the undeniable truth. One evening, as Rebecca and I reviewed the final pieces of evidence, a knock echoed through the house. I opened the door to find Emily standing there, her eyes red from crying. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Can we talk?" My heart pounded as I stepped aside, allowing her entry. She moved hesitantly to the living room, sitting beside me. "I don't understand why everything happened the way it did," she began, her voice barely audible. "Mom made choices that hurt us all, but I still love you." Tears welled in my eyes as I reached out, taking her hand in mine. "I love you too, Emily. I did everything I could to protect our family, even when it felt like everything was falling apart." She nodded, leaning into me for support. "I know you were trying. Maybe we can find a way to heal together." In that moment, the realization hit me hard. Revenge had consumed me for so long that I had lost sight of what truly mattered. The mission to dismantle Project Eclipse had been necessary, but it had come at the cost of my relationship with my daughter. The confidence that once defined me now felt hollow, overshadowed by the personal losses I had endured. As weeks turned into months, life began to settle into a new, uneasy normalcy. Sarah faced her sentencing, her reputation in ruins, while Mark's future was bleak behind bars. The legal battles were over, but the emotional scars remained, etched deeply into the fabric of our lives. Rebecca and I continued to stay in touch, our professional bond strengthened by the trials we had faced together. She became not just an ally but a confidant, someone who understood the depths of the struggle we had endured. Together, we discussed ways to support Emily, helping her navigate the complex emotions that had taken root. One sunny afternoon, I watched Emily and Rebecca working on a community project, their collaboration a beacon of hope amidst the lingering shadows. Seeing my daughter begin to find her footing once more filled me with a cautious optimism. Perhaps, in time, we could rebuild what had been broken, piece by fragile piece. Yet, beneath the surface of these tentative steps towards healing, a lingering sense of unease remained. The exposure of Project Eclipse had stirred ripples that extended far beyond our immediate circle. There were whispers of unfinished business, shadows of those who still sought to exploit the chaos we had unearthed. The sense of being watched never fully dissipated, a constant reminder that the fight was far from over. One night, as I sat alone in my study, reflecting on the journey that had brought me to this point, the phone rang. The caller ID was unfamiliar, a number I didn't recognize. With a sense of trepidation I answered. "Mr. Thompson." A voice intoned, its tone devoid of emotion. "We need to talk." A chill ran down my spine. "Who is this?" "Someone who knows too much," the voice replied before abruptly ending the call. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. Was this a threat? A warning? The realization dawned that even as we celebrated our victories, remnants of the past still clung to us, threatening to unravel the fragile peace we had achieved. Determined not to let fear take hold, I resolved to stay vigilant. The storm may have passed, but its aftermath would require continued strength and resilience. As I looked towards the future, I knew that the path to true healing was just beginning, fraught with challenges yet to be faced. The successful dismantling of Project Eclipse was a monumental victory, but it came at a tremendous personal cost. Sarah and Mark were behind bars, their reputations irreparably damaged, and their criminal network exposed to the world. Yet, as the dust began to settle, I found myself grappling with the aftermath of our battle. Emily and I worked diligently to rebuild our relationship. The road to reconciliation was slow and fraught with emotional hurdles. Her presence became a source of solace, a reminder that despite the chaos, there was still something worth fighting for. We spent evenings talking, sharing memories, and slowly stitching together the frayed edges of our bond. However, the shadows of our past loomed large. The exposure of Project Eclipse had stirred ripples that extended far beyond our immediate circle. There were whispers of unfinished business, shadows of those who still sought to exploit the chaos we had unleashed. Threatening messages began to appear, subtle at first, but growing more brazen with time. It was clear that not everyone was pleased with the downfall of Sarah and Mark. One evening, as I sat in my study reviewing the latest developments, Rebecca approached me with a sense of urgency. "We've received anonymous tips about potential threats. Someone is trying to intimidate us into dropping the case," she informed me, her brow furrowed with concern. My heart raced. The fight wasn't entirely over. There were still forces at play that could jeopardize everything we had worked for. "What kind of threats?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Rebecca handed me a series of emails and messages, each more menacing than the last. "They're warning us to stop digging deeper. It seems there's more to Sarah and Mark's operations than we uncovered." A chill ran down my spine. "We need to stay vigilant. I'll increase security measures and keep a low profile. We can't let fear dictate our actions." Determined not to let these threats derail our progress, Rebecca and I intensified our efforts. We delved deeper into the remnants of Project Eclipse, uncovering connections to influential figures who had previously remained hidden. The network was vast, with tendrils reaching into politics, business, and even law enforcement. Each revelation painted a more intricate picture of corruption and deceit. As we navigated this treacherous landscape, the emotional toll weighed heavily on me. The confidence that had once been my hallmark was now tempered with caution and weariness. The lines between ally and adversary blurred, making trust a scarce commodity. Every new discovery brought us closer to the truth, but also heightened the dangers we faced. One night, while poring over financial records, I stumbled upon a pattern of transactions that seemed out of place. They were subtle, cleverly disguised, but unmistakably linked to offshore accounts previously associated with Project Eclipse. "Rebecca, look at this," I called out, pointing to the screen. "These transactions don't add up. There's something we're missing." She leaned in, her eyes scanning the data. "This could be the breakthrough we need. If we can trace these funds, we might uncover the next layer of their operations." Excitement mixed with apprehension as we followed the trail. It led us to a series of shell companies, each more convoluted than the last. The complexity suggested a deliberate attempt to obfuscate the true source and destination of the funds. "This is like chasing shadows," Rebecca muttered, frustration evident in her tone. "But if we can map this out, we can expose the entire network." Days turned into sleepless nights as we worked tirelessly, connecting dots and unraveling the intricate web of deceit. The deeper we delved, the more perilous our mission became. It wasn't just about bringing justice to Sarah and Mark anymore. It was about dismantling a formidable empire built on corruption and exploitation. Amidst the chaos, a new twist emerged. I received a call from an unexpected source, Laura, Sarah's former friend who had previously testified against her. "I need to meet with you," she insisted, her voice trembling. "There's something you need to know about Sarah that could change everything." Intrigued and cautious, I agreed to the meeting. Laura revealed that Sarah had been coerced into her criminal activities, blackmailed by powerful individuals who held secrets from her past. "She wasn't always the manipulative person you believed her to be," Laura confided. "There were things she was forced to do, things she couldn't escape." Her revelation added a layer of complexity to our understanding of Sarah. It wasn't just about betrayal and manipulation. It was about a woman trapped in a web of circumstances beyond her control. The lines between victim and perpetrator blurred, challenging my perception of the person I had once loved. As I grappled with this new information, the threats against us intensified. One evening, as Rebecca and I left the office, a car screeched to a halt beside us. Two men emerged, their intentions unmistakably hostile. "You're meddling in things you don't understand," one warned, his voice cold and menacing. Instinctively, Rebecca and I reacted, pushing our way into the vehicle and speeding away. The close call was a stark reminder of the dangers we faced. "We need to be more careful," Rebecca said, her face pale with adrenaline. "This isn't just about legal battles anymore. Our lives are at stake." The realization that our fight had escalated to a life-threatening level was sobering. Yet, the determination to see it through only strengthened. The truth had to prevail, no matter the cost. One night, as I sat alone reflecting on the tumultuous events, a sense of clarity washed over me. Revenge had consumed me for so long, driving me to the brink of darkness. But now, with the broader implications of our battle unfolding, it was time to redefine my mission. This wasn't just about punishing those who wronged me. It was about dismantling a system of corruption and ensuring that no one else would fall victim to its grasp. With renewed purpose, Rebecca and I strategized our next moves. We reached out to trustworthy federal agents, sharing the comprehensive evidence we had amassed. The collaboration was seamless, a union of forces united by a common goal. Together, we orchestrated a coordinated effort to strike at the heart of the remaining operations tied to Project Eclipse. As the days turned into weeks, the net tightened around the corrupt network. Arrests were made, evidence seized, and the once impregnable fortress of deceit began to crumble. The culmination of our efforts was a series of high-profile raids that sent shockwaves through the corridors of power. Influential figures were unmasked, their illicit dealings exposed for all to see. Amidst the victories, the personal battles persisted. Emily and I continued to heal, our relationship strengthening with each passing day. Her unwavering support became a beacon of hope, guiding me through the darkest moments. Together, we found solace in each other's presence, rebuilding the trust that had been shattered by betrayal and pain. Yet, as the sun set on our final victory, a lingering unease remained. The battle had changed me irrevocably, leaving scars that would take time to heal. The confidence I once exuded was now tempered with humility, and a deeper understanding of the complexities of human nature. Revenge had transformed into a quest for justice, shaping me into a man who had faced his demons and emerged stronger, albeit forever changed.